Hi, this is Adrienne from Step Up for Mental Health, and this is Mental Talk. And we have today on our podcast Camesha Jones from Sista Afya. And I'm excited to talk to her about mental health, women, and people of color, and just basically issues that are affecting our community. And ladies and gentlemen, we have Camesha. Hello.
Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Thank you so much for being guests on our show.
No problem. No problem. I'm happy to be here.
So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about a couple of things. One of the things that I'm interested in is knowing about what is happening. I know we're in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Everybody's stressed. Everybody's going through a lot of things. But what things that you can talk about is affecting people, families and women particularly in mental health?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I'm seeing in the women that I've been working with, so I see people for individual therapy, and then we've taken our support group online, and people who are caretakers are really feeling it right now as far as, I used to have separation between my home and my job or my home and school, but now that separation isn't there anymore. And so it's been really challenging for women who are often usually the people who are made caretakers or socialized to be caretakers, not having that separation. And that's causing anxiety and stress. And then on top of that, people who are worried about their jobs, that is something else that people are concerned about, because if you don't have a steady job or you don't have a steady income, a lot of things in your life can fall apart. So those are two things that I'm seeing in particular with women. And then with anxiety, of course, being the most prevalent mental health condition, anxiety for some folks are heightening as far as the feeling of out of controlness that COVID-19 kind of brings, because it's something we've never seen before. We don't know all the information, all of the impact that it'll have. So also being just anxious and worried and on edge about something that is new and that has never been seen before.
Yeah, it is some scary stuff. Your business is on the South Side, right? I'm interested in, is it unique in when people come to your seek help and get help? Are you finding that you're getting more calls in because of the COVID crisis, or are people just kind of like wanting to do their regular sessions that they're having every week, or is it something different that you're seeing?
I would say it's about the same, which I didn't expect. I think I expected that there was going to be like an increase, just because of kind of like what the media has kind of portrayed about everybody being anxious and stressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually thought there were going to be more people. But in actuality, it's been pretty much about the same. And then last month, our sister support group was about overcoming fear with courage. And so we had a full sister support group, which we've had for the last couple of months, but there were, I think, maybe about 12 women, mostly in Chicago, and then some people who are outside of Chicago who joined in. So that's kind of like, there's been more interest in group, I think. But for the most part, as far as individual therapy, everything has pretty much been the same as far as people utilizing the services that Sista Afya provides.
Cool. So you really, I'm interested in your business. You're focusing on Black women. Are there particularly any issues that we are facing that are different than other demographics?
hmm One of the things that I have seen across the board is that Black folks in general, but Black women statistically take longer to get mental health care. So, say someone might experience their mental health symptoms, the onset of a mental health condition, they might not get help till 5 years later. It just takes longer for a variety of reasons. One of those things could be, of course, the big S stigma that people commonly talk about. Also, access as far as location,
Yeah.
and access as far as having a therapist that fits their preferences. Some people prefer to have a woman of the same ethnic background, someone with the same gender identity, different things like that. And then one of the biggest ones that I've just seen is cost. So
Yeah.
2 summers ago, we did a lot of outreach in the summer, and we did like a survey for anybody who we came into contact with who would come to either our table. We would just ask them, hey, take 5 minutes to fill out the survey. And the number one reason that people were not seeking mental wellness care, we surveyed 50 people, so not a lot of people, was cost.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the biggest barriers, is that there might be women who want to get care, but their insurance, they're underinsured, or they have a high deductible, or the average therapist is causing $150 per session, and they just can't afford that. So those are some of the things that I've seen that's different within the African American community, African American women. Also, the thing and the notion that black women have to grow up pretty quick. And what I mean by that, as when you turn 18, you got to have a job. You have to, take care of family members, and you kind of have to take on so much responsibility so young. And I think that has definitely happened across the board in America, because we can be more individualistic, and like people are really focused on independence. But I just think that women also experience the pressure of, like, I got to get my stuff together now. So not allowing that time for Black girls to really grow up into women where they don't necessarily have all of those different responsibilities, and they can just like grow up and to develop without having all those stressors that adulthood brings on when they're 18. So those are some of the things that I've seen.
Yeah, I've been kind of researching. I guess they call it ACE, childhood trauma, and I think, I mean, as a peer, I'm not a psychologist in any way, so that's why you're here. But I think that people of color in general have been dealing with a lot of trauma and stress as young people. And I think we hold things so much in particular, caregivers, as far as nurturers of women who being nurturers, taking care of their family, taking care of their parents, so on and so, even siblings. And so I think it's a big burden on us that sometimes we have a hard time to say no, and we tend to want to help everyone else, and sometimes we forget about ourselves a little bit, I think.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And like you said, that trauma piece, the top three mental health conditions that people come in the door with are depression, anxiety, and traumatic stress across the board. And just family challenges as well. So even along with being a caretaker, living in a family that isn't operating in the most healthy way,
Yeah.
And having to deal with those things that maybe you didn't address in childhood all the way up until now. And it's impacting your relationships. It's impacting the way you relate to other people. It's impacting how you see the world.
Yeah, I mean, just think about this. I think we do things where it's kind of a cycle. If your parent taught you a certain way, you might teach your child a certain way, and so on and so on. And particularly if people are having children, they're not really sure what to do, or how, parenting, I think, as a person who doesn't have children, I have a fur baby, I'm just going to let you know. I help raise my sister's kids, but I think we tend to, it's hard. Being a parent is difficult in any circumstances. And so I'm not saying that every person of color is dealing with poverty. That's one of the things that I want to, make sure that everybody's not dealing with poverty.
Mm-hmm.
But people who are dealing with poverty and childhood trauma, they don't know what to do. I mean, I know we have in the Black community, people, I hear all the time people are saying, did you pray? Pray it away. And so I want to talk about, the misconceptions about, why people maybe should go seek therapy versus more of a spiritual, but I know people believe in, God and kind of spirituality, but sometimes we need some therapy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's something that has also come up quite often. I personally, I practice what I preach. I'm a therapist that goes to therapy, and I have a very strong relationship with God. And so I can see the benefits of both of them working together really well. And I think sometimes people think they have to choose one or the other. So, one of the things that I've at least encouraged people to do, I have like a couple of, actually, honestly, I have, the women that I see are doing a variety of different spiritual practices. But what I do encourage them to do is to use the parts of, spirituality and religion that really focus on enriching their mind, and enriching their spirit, but also knowing that, in my opinion, God created people to help you here on earth.
That's right.
And so, like, yes, there are certain things that you can grow with as far as like your mind and handling your mental wellness with, a pastor, faith leader, and even just your personal relationship. But you also can benefit from having someone else who was trained to specifically work with people who are experiencing the same things that you are, to assist you as well. So that's really one of the things that I've encouraged. And, sometimes you might need more spirituality, you might need less therapy, and sometimes you need more therapy and less spirituality. Like, I think it kind of can wax and wane depending on, like, what you're experiencing. Another thing that I'll say really quickly is, particularly with addiction and substance use, when I was in graduate school, a lot of professors shied away from talking about the importance of spirituality. And a lot of people who were able to overcome addiction said that something happened to them spiritually that helped them to not use substances again, or to not relapse as often. So I always don't want to take away from the fact that there is something very powerful in spirituality, even as far as addiction, that can really help people to get them in the right direction, where they will go to treatment, they will seek therapy, they will utilize these other supports.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I think, some people are more spiritual and more mindfulness. Some people are more spiritual in God, that kind of thing. So I think everybody has their own journey to follow. And as long as it's working for you, I think it's a good thing. I'm interested in one thing. Let me ask you a question. Sometimes if we could dream, particularly about mental health and ways that we can help individuals, communities. If you could change one thing about mental health in the communities of color, what would it be? What are some of the misconceptions? What are some of the things that you wish that communities of color would understand?
That's a really good question. That's like the utopia question,
I know,
right
it's a
there. That's
big
what we
one.
call it, the utopia question. Wow. If there was one thing that I could change, I would say and this is it might sound very cliche, but the importance of mental health in the family is something that I would really want to change if I could see happen. Because when I say the type of level of, trauma or distress that I see, a lot of people are linking it to their families. And so, and that's not to say that, Black families are more dysfunctional than others. That's certainly not the case. But what I have seen across the board is your family dynamic and the way in which you are raised. Because you think about it, like, our families are our first teachers. And so if there are ways that mental health and wellness and well-being can be integrated in the family, and where relationships and dynamics and systems within the family that haven't been able to be healed are able to be healed, it can change generations. It's so common that I'll have someone who say, I got an issue with alcohol. My dad got an issue with alcohol. His dad had an issue with alcohol. They ended up being, abusive, this, that, and the fourth. And so those generational things are passed down, even sometimes when you don't really notice it. So if I could change something, it would really be strengthening families, and for families to know that it's okay to seek wellness and it's okay to seek healing as soon as possible. Like, it could be like right when the baby comes out or whatever, but it has to happen for that person to thrive. So that's something that's maybe not as common that's talked about, but I think that it's really important.
I agree. One of the things about Step Up for Mental Health as an advocacy peer nonprofit is we believe that families, just because as some people know, I was a caregiver of a parent who had schizophrenia. And so I believe that the family structure, everything, whatever that is, whether it's, it all affects everyone. And so I thank you for that. What things can people know about your business and how they can reach out to you to get support, services, and help?
Mm-hmm. So my business specifically focuses on low-cost mental wellness services that center young Black women. So young Black women who are in their young adult years. And that is because people experience the height of their mental health crises in their young adult years. And also the cost piece is another reason why people don't get help as soon as possible. So putting the two together to increase access and increase mental wellness support from a community standpoint. So I think that's something else that makes Sista Afya really unique, is that besides our individual therapy, everything, all of our events, all of our groups, all focus on community and the power of community healing. And I think that's been one of the missing things, is sometimes where the narrative is still pushed that you have to figure out everything on your own. But as, African American, our culture is very steeped into community. And so bringing the best of that into mental health and thinking of creative ways to engage people into mental wellness services. So for example, LaTanya Franklin, one of our therapists, she has a group called Literary Healing, which is a book club and therapy group, right? Something you probably never heard of before, but it brings something that's important within Black culture, clubs and books and reading. Black women have a thirst for knowledge, and then bringing together therapy as well. So we're really thinking of out-of-the-box ways to engage young Black women in mental wellness services. And then being on the South Side is really important. We're located in South Shore off of 71st Street. And it's just been important that we are in a neighborhood, because a lot of therapists are downtown.
Yeah.
A majority of therapists, and not just white therapists, Black therapists, everybody's downtown or in the Hyde Park Bank building in Hyde Park. Yeah. Those are the two places where all the therapists are. And so being able to have our practice in a neighborhood And people talk about, man, like, I love the fact that you all are like right down the street and I can find parking easily. And, you know, like, I'm familiar with this community. So those things are important as well. And then we've been doing this since 2017. We've grown in a lot of different ways, but mainly we focus on social events, group therapy, support groups, and then we also have individual therapy for people who want to do that as well. And so if you're interested in learning more about us, you can go to our website, which is www.sistafya.com. And you could also follow us on social media at Sista Afya, and that's spelled Sistaafya.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, and I love connecting our community to other communities that are beneficial. And so thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Mental Talk. It was a pleasure.
No problem. Thanks for having me.